I are just going to butt heads, and that is what it is. And
what happened in the bar too?
Yeah, yeah.
So on the beach that you worked at, over the years that have you had any memorable times that you could tell us about, like where you had like a really big rescue or some kind of crazy medical thing that happened that was really, really that sticks out in your mind?
Yes, and not necessarily right off the bat sitting right here. I'll be completely honest, listen to a handful of podcasts, and I know you guys have been asking this question. So last night I was like,
you did some preparation.
I gotta sit down because I know this question's coming, and I don't want to be on the spot. I got to think about it.
Some people have been caught off guard, like, you got to give me a minute to think about this one.
Well, yeah. I know, like Chip Bruce, the captain of State Park, he has his classical, the one, it's iconic, the kayak one, in 100-foot. The waves get bigger and bigger at the inlet when he went out. And, he's a good friend of ours. So
okay, cool.
But go ahead. So what?
Yeah, so I knew that you guys were going to ask some questions about the whole cop thing and also being a lifeguard. So I did. I actually went through and started thinking about some of the better rescues we've had. And I think you guys can agree. I know Tim Harmon came on the show, and you guys talked a lot about our after-hours programs that we run over in Monmouth County, and I helped him administer that. But all of my best, craziest, most memorable rescues have been off-duty.
Yeah.
Because there was no proactive element there with a lifeguard, because think about it, majority of our rescues on the beach, they're not going to get that crazy. I mean, there's the off chance, but to some extent, we're there to be proactive and prevent that from happening, the preventative element of lifeguarding. So they're all off duty. So again, that was like a wild setup, but I do have my laptop plugged in. There's some,
let's pull that up here. Let me get
some photo stuff too. So to set this up,
just go ahead.
This was, I gotta log in. So this was,
okay, I'll keep the picture on you.
We're not gonna be able to see his password anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to see that. Yeah. Well.
So this was a Friday night in August around 9 p.m. And
all right, let me put it on here. You go.
Yep, this was in Spring Lake.
Right here.
And we got dispatched to a boat that had collided with a jetty. It was at 9 p.m., so pitch black, and a Friday night. So the dispatch was wild. Like, we kept getting updates while we were responding there. I forget
what kind of ocean was it. Like, can you give me a little? What kind of ocean was it? Do you remember?
So yeah, I do. I'm going to show you some pictures. So it was probably like 4-foot surf. So enough, and it was like a mid tide. So you'll see when I show you the first picture, there were some waves beating up on the boat. But we were getting all kinds of dispatch updates because there were obviously 9 o'clock on a Friday night. A lot of people on the boardwalk and walking on the beach after dinner, what have you, and we were getting reports of people under the boat, people submerged. There were 8 people, there were 12 people, there were 5 people. There's people in the water. There's people stuck between the rocks on the jetty. All the craziest updates you can imagine. So what's cool about this is there's a guy in Spring Lake who is just an avid photographer, and he's just everywhere at all times. So we actually had a guy there pretty quick who got some pretty stunning photos of this. So this is the first picture. This is the scene that we came up on.
Oh my God.
Now, what's cool about this, and the reason why I brought this up as the rescue I wanted to talk about.
So just real quick, I want to explain this for people who are just listening. We've got the boat right up next to the jetty that crashed into it, and about 6, what are you guys trying to push it off?
No, so this is a collection of off-duty lifeguards and police officers.
Okay.
So actually, that's the chief of police on the boat.
Nice.
So
somebody's got a pair of jeans on. I like that.
Yeah. But he took the shirt off.
I love this rescue for so many reasons because you had like so much interagency cooperation here, and everybody who's out on that boat and on this rescue was on a first name basis. And regardless of what agency you work for, it was because we have a good working relationship with all these other agencies. So
that's important.
When you got out there were no introductions. There were no, well, this is an ocean incident and I'm a lifeguard, or no, this is a police incident because you guys are off duty. Everyone worked really seamlessly together. And the cops in Spring Lake are studs. A lot of good watermen and just all around great public safety professionals. So long story short, this boat was out. They were watching fireworks. The fireworks ended. They gunned it back to whatever inlet they were going back to. The driver of the boat, it was him. He was probably like in his 40s or 50s. And then he had I believe it was his niece and nephew, who I think were like 12 and 13 on the boat. And he was all tuned up. He ended up getting charged with DWI from the state police marine unit. So he crashes into the jetty. He's now on the ground with a significant head injury, altered mental status, and couldn't really communicate with us. And then the 2 kids were up in the bow, and just terrified. So minor injuries on the kids, but not really receptive to what we were telling them to do because they were terrified. So this is what we see. And up here you got some of our off-duty lifeguards, which is, as Tim explained to you guys, from 3 different towns, Manasquan, Seagirt, and Spring Lake. So I'm up there from Spring Lake. There's 2 or 3 Manasquan guys up there. The police chief was actually eating dinner across the street and kind of witnessed it happen. So, again, he's like the kind of guy who's like, all right, game time.
What's the vehicle to the left of our
That was a beach tractor combing the beach.
Oh, so he came over too.
He came over, gave us a little bit of light, yeah.
So he put the light on. He had to, that was great.
Yep. Yeah, helpful.
That's real helpful. That wasn't planned. I mean, he just happened to be there. Huh? What a break.
The fire department does a lot of great support work for our after-hours water rescue stuff on the beach, where we have a lot of scene lighting that we bring down.
See, that's important for night, yeah.
And we actually outfitted our tower ladder with some additional lighting specifically for ocean rescues at night.
Just want to make a point, too, because I'll forget if I don't bring it up. And this is something that you mentioned. You said in the beginning, and this is so important, I want to stress this. You said you got multiple calls, 5 people, 2 people, 12 people, some submerged, whatever. And there's a thing that I always learn, because I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and there's a thing, it's verify. You don't know what you're going to. Don't overreact, but don't underreact. But try to verify, try to get that's such an important thing. You just mentioned that, because how many different things, you get there and it's totally what, we had one on our beach. One of the kids calls up, says there's 3 people behind on the back of the beach passed out. Now, I called in the National Guard because, I'm thinking 3 ODs, 3 overdoses, and it could be possible. What it turned out to be some woman who went up to the bar and had a couple of drinks, and she was, actually she was having a stroke, but that's still better than 3 people.
My point is, I had one time but
you see, that's an important thing that he's.
A family comes running up to me. They're like, he's spewing blood everywhere. Like his head's cut wide open. So I immediately got on the radio and I was like, hey, headquarters north, we're going to need Triborough here immediately, before I got to the scene.
Right,
and then I got there, and this kid's got like a tiny cut, like it just needed a Band-Aid.
But what did you do then? You just canceled them, right?
Yeah.
And this is where you see a major separation between the fire service and the lifeguards, because we have this really strong contingent of lifeguards who respond on our after-hours team, but lifeguards are indoctrined into this public safety organization where we're constantly there. We're deploying these proactive measures, and we respond to things that we witness. Whereas firefighters are the complete opposite. We're 100% reactive, where we're used to getting these insane reports from dispatch. I mean, it's drilled into us that whatever the dispatch is, you assume it's true. You call what you need. If you get there and it's anything less than that, you can always send them home. So it's funny when you have these after-hours incidents. I find that the rescue swimmers we train through the fire department do a better job of getting there, because they're used to tones drop on that pager, you get the phone alert, you're up, you're in your car, you're running, you don't put shoes on, it's whatever. Whereas the lifeguards are like, oh, I got a call. All right, what beach is that? And it's just, their brains don't click the same. I'll never make the argument that anyone's going to make a water rescue better than a lifeguard, because they're not.
Yeah,
but when it comes to this after-hour stuff,
I think that what I was trying to mention, my point of that dissertation that I said, is that you need to verify, though. I mean, it's good where you put all the assets out, but a great example was in State Park. They had that big festival down there. It had hundreds and hundreds of boats, and Chip Bruce, who's the captain down there, was telling me the story. They only have a certain amount of resources. So they were going on wild goose chases, trying to take care of one or the other. And if the Triborough is dealing with something that's low key, and there's somebody who really needs an AED and is having a heart attack, you only have a limited amount of resources. That's what happens on our beach, and we will not. I make sure I check everything before we make the call. But I think that it's important that you made that whole thing. A lot of times you'll get a whole bunch of calls. La Valette, all the time. There's these people who go swimming in the morning, and we'll be working out there, because I train La Valette, and you get a call. There's somebody out there drowning. Somebody from the boardwalk calls. They don't know. And then
meanwhile, it's like a college swimmer getting a morning
workout. It goes to county, and then it gets blown up, and then before you know it, it's somebody going down. There's 10 people drowning, and it's just some guy swimming. So anyway, so go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
it's a good point. So go ahead.
So I'll wrap this up. Just from a rescue standpoint, we took, as you can see here, we took the victims off the boat. We strapped PFDs on them and escorted them down the jetty. Hindsight 2020, I don't know the best way to handle this incident. It's not something you can really train for. The water was a little turbulent that night, so I thought it'd be easier to maybe just throw them off the boat and swim them in. But again, when you're dealing with rough surf, this worked out fine. They
Yeah,
didn't
especially
sustain any
next to the
additional
jetty.
injuries. Yeah, so we got him off that way. But then this guy, again, major head trauma, altered mental status, rapid trauma assessment revealed he might have a cervical spine injury. And at the time, we've kind of gotten away from going C-spine, but this is 2015. It was kind of before that advent. So what we ended up doing was strapping him onto a backboard and then in a Stokes, and then getting him off there like that. So
how bad was that boat bombing around?
the boat was rocking like crazy. Actually, you see from picture to picture, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was sketchy. I mean, definitely one of the sketchiest ones.
See, I'm and I got a captain's license, I got a what do you call it? A master's. I with a boat like that, I would have done what I would have tried to think. If I was there, I would have, not that but to get lines on that boat and try to secure it so it didn't move as much. But
But what do you secure it to?
Maybe to rock somewhere, that's why you got to know your knots.
I don't think there's anything to tie to. Trust me, I've wrapped my head around this. The Coast Guard, typical Coast Guard, they show up 15 minutes after the fact, and whoever it was comes up on the beach and he goes, oh wow, this was impressive. You guys should have just called for a helicopter. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, call for a helicopter.
No, you did the best thing. You did the best thing.
That was good, and I love this picture too because again, my passion is interagency operability. And right here, you got 3 Spring Lake police officers, 2 Spring Lake lifeguards, 2 Manasquan lifeguards, and a secret lifeguard working seamlessly together to get this done. It's really cool to see.
How slippery was those rocks too?
Oh, it's brutal.
And
like I said, at mid-tide, you can see they're wet, so they're usually submerged. It was, it was.
That's dangerous. I don't think people. Looking at that thing, that is a huge. You guys could have easily, got your legs caught between the boat and the jetty. Broken a leg, snapped it off, cut it right off.
We were all bleeding pretty good after that, just from like the barnacles and stuff.
Yeah.
And I shame on me. I forget most people are listening. So just to explain those pictures, we got the 2 victims off, strapped them on PFDs, escorted them down the jetty, and then for the final victim with the head trauma, we got him in a C-spine, secured him to a backboard, secured him to a Stokes, and then kind of leveraged the Stokes, kept it on the ground at all times because we didn't really have steady footing. We made a chain and just kind of handed him off person by person from the boat down to the jetty, kind of slid him down the rocks. And then we probably had another like 25, 30-foot gap of about chest deep water that we had to get him through to get him up on the beach.
Imagine slipping on those rocks while you're holding him.
It was sketchy.
Can you put that picture? Can you put that picture back on?
Yeah, sure. Which one?
The last one. The one. The last
where
one.
He's boarded?
No, the one before that. The one where the board's coming, where you're putting the board right there.
Yeah.
So think about that. That boat's moving. I wish we had a moving. That boat's moving. You got this. How much do you think the guy weigh? He looks like he's
got a gut.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. He's probably what 200.
When you're telling war stories, it's you got to knock off 50 pounds. So if I tell you he was like 300, he was probably about like 250.
And
then this guy was 400 pounds.
And then
I lifted him by myself.
And then you guys got you got wet jetty. People don't know what how dangerous that is. And you got to move this guy. You got to be in good shape too. You got to have a lot of core strength, and that's how dangerous and to get him off that boat. That's a great job. That's a good rescue there.
I'll show you one of my favorite pictures from the night. So I told you, this is like prime time Friday night. So again, from the pictures I got from this photographer from that night, that was the boardwalk watching this.
Wow.
You had hundreds of people there.
Yeah.
So talk about not wanting to make a mistake or act like a jackass.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.